with Georgia's economic development success. We know we've had record years, the last 5 years, in locations, jobs, and capital investment. But perhaps the most exciting and largest of those projects is the Hyundai Meta plant in Southeast Georgia. That announcement comes with 8,000 direct jobs, and I believe another 8,000 indirect jobs is what's forecasted. So with that, the region decided that they need to look at workforce development in a different way. And that's why I'm pleased to have my friend Anna Chafin here, who is the president and CEO of Workforce for the Savannah Economic Development Authority. Anna's going to discuss this mega project and everything that comes with it. So Anna, thank you for being here, and congratulations on your new role, by the way.
Thank you, Pedro. Good morning. I want to thank you, Pedro, and the Georgia Chamber for the opportunity to be here today to share the story of how we arrived at this new regional workforce organization in the Savannah area. And so in order to tell the story, I think it's important to talk about several different factors. So I'm looking forward to share that with y'all today.
Excellent, excellent. So Anna, previously you were the CEO of the Development Authority of Bryan County, and you actually helped recruit Hyundai to the area and move forward, and now you are leading an effort to develop a regional-wide workforce development strategy. So we'd love to hear more about that strategy and really what prompted this regional strategy versus the community. This is the larger strategy. I think Walt mentioned it's a team sport, so it's really a regionalism. Tell us about that.
So the short answer is what prompted this? It was Hyundai. And when Hyundai announced, I'm thankful that we had a great leader in our region, Audrey King with Georgia Power. She's now recently been promoted and she's in Atlanta. But we were thankful for Audrey's leadership down in the Savannah region for many years. And Audrey and I had a conversation right before the announcement. And she said, Anna, what are our existing industries going to think when we have Hyundai and all these suppliers come into our market? Are they going to be concerned about workforce? And I said yes, and my colleagues in the other 3 counties agreed. So Audrey assembled a team, a small group of people that came together shortly after the announcement, and that included Bryan, Bullock, Chatham, and Effingham counties. We all had representation there. Also, Gulfstream was part of the conversation because they're a major industry in our region, and then the Georgia Ports Authority participated. And so we came together, we talked about what was the best thing that we could do to support not just Hyundai and the suppliers that were coming to the market, but all of those existing industries that had already invested in our region. And so we decided we needed to hire a consultant, and we hired a consultant that had a lot of familiarity with our region, Wadley, Donovan, Gutshaw Consulting, based out of New Jersey with an office in Jacksonville. And they had done several workforce assignments previously in our region. So they came in, we asked them to do 3 tasks. One was market research. We needed data to help us make good decisions. They also helped us identify our immediate needs and challenges, and a lot of that information was gleaned from our existing industries. And so there was a 93-question electronic survey that our industries completed. There were also focus groups with stakeholders from a variety of groups throughout our community. And then also there were one-on-one meetings with the consultant as well as our industry partners. And so that was how we got most of our information. Our study area was a 1-hour commute of what we're now referring to as the Hyundai Meta plant. This is where Hyundai is setting up shop in Bryan County, and the reason the consultant studied 1 hour is they believed for a good manufacturing job, someone will drive up to an hour. And we agreed. And so we got a lot of great information from the study, and we got the information, I believe, in early fall, and we did not publicly release it until November. But quickly after the public release in November, it was announced in December of last year that the Savannah Economic Development Authority was going to fund a new regional workforce organization because that was one of the primary recommendations of the study. And so I was honored to be asked to lead the new organization. After almost 20 years in local economic development, I was excited to provide my time and attention specifically related to regional workforce development. And so I'm joined on the team by Justin Farquhar, who had been my colleague in Bryan County for 7.5 years, and also Jennifer Collins, who's with the Savannah Economic Development Authority. She's been in a project management role, and now she's joined our team. And then finally, Maria Whitfield, who's got over 20 years of human resources manufacturing experience. She actually works for the JDA, the four-county group. And she's been on the job for over a year, meeting with industry, trying to help calm their concerns about what is going to happen in our region from a hiring standpoint over the next 5 to 10 years. And Maria, she led our workforce study from the JDA team in conjunction with Jamal Jesse with Georgia Power. Jamal, I think you're in the audience right down here. Jamal's a tremendous resource. He actually was with us last week at our off-site planning workshop for 2 days, and we're just so thankful for his expertise. If any of y'all need somebody to give you some good advice related to workforce development, Jamal's your guy. So thank you, Jamal, for all of your help. So that's the Cliff's Notes version of how we arrived at this new regional workforce organization. But we started work January 2nd as a team, so we're brand new, but we've got tons of energy, great ideas, and even more important, we have a plan, and we have a plan that we are already starting to implement.
Terrific. Sounds like that's a very comprehensive study, and congratulations, Jamal and Audrey, two great colleagues of mine. They're doing great work there. So I'm sure the study pointed out areas where you need additional investments, additional resources, but what are some of the other key takeaways from the study?
So I would break it down into 3 key takeaways. The first would be, and this is not going to be a surprise, that the labor market in the Savannah region is extremely tight. Now, this is not just unique to the Savannah region. We're experiencing record low unemployment across the country. But what we found specifically about our area is that we have a lot of imported data. So that 4-county JDA area, we have over 2,000 people that are coming into work in careers and distribution. Also, the consultant found that we've got close to 2,000 people in unskilled production roles that are coming in. And so that provided some good data behind substantiating we really do have a tight labor market in our region. But on the positive side, they also quantified that we will see probably close to 25,000 people move to our area within a 5-year period. I think that number may be low. I think we may outperform close to 25,000, but we'll just have to wait and see. So that was one of the key takeaways. Another takeaway is that we need to focus more on the technical and production roles, because as you will see here, we have quite a task in front of us between now and 2027. This is our top 10 list of most in-demand careers related to industry between now and 2027. So over 16,000 people need to be hired in our area. And so all of these are technical and production roles, and we're going to have to put a significant focus on how do we get these people working within our industries. So this next set of information, this actually was probably the main factor that motivated us to stand up the new regional workforce organization. So what you see here is that by 2025, which is next year, we will fully exhaust our one-time supply of the underemployed. And when we do that, starting next year through 2031, we will have more jobs in the industrial sector than we have people to fill those jobs. So that was very alarming for us. And again, I would say this is probably the main factor that motivated us to stand up this new regional workforce organization. And then the third big takeaway for me was that we've got to spend more time and attention focusing on our high school graduates. That is our best homegrown talent pipeline. And I know that college is a great option for a lot of students. It was the right option for me, but to Misty's point, it's not the right option for everyone. And so we need to make sure that our students, our parents, our teachers, our guidance counselors are educating our students earlier about all their opportunities, because there are a lot of great careers, not just jobs, but great careers that you can have within industry. So those were my 3 big takeaways from the study.
Excellent, excellent takeaways. Thanks for that. You know, at Georgia Power, Atlanta Gas Light, we do a lot of work when it comes to whatever to make our community stronger. Economic mobility, workforce development is one of those. We partner with many of you, many chambers, many other organizations that are out there across the state. At Atlanta Gas Light, one group we partner with is called Georgia Justice Project, which is a group that tries to help people who've been incarcerated transition into the workforce. And I've learned a lot from this partnership with them. One stat I learned from them is that 40% of all Georgians have a criminal background. 40%. So let's count off 1 through 10 and see what 4 of you at each table. No, I'm just kidding. 40%. I mean, think about that when you think about workforce and workforce availability. So we love working with them. They are a wraparound agency. You've heard about that today as well. So Anna, my question to you is, do you see any opportunities for these undertapped, underserved communities to help alleviate some of the workforce concerns, like second chances?
For sure. So we'll start with Second Chance because that's a talent pipeline that I've recently been learning more about. And I think it's interesting when you look at the formerly incarcerated and the unemployment rate associated with that talent pipeline, that's 27%. That's a lot of people that you could potentially draw from. And part of what we've been doing as a regional workforce organization is we're going out, we're meeting with different entities, and we're learning about best practices. And we're trying to share those throughout the region. And so one of those that I wanted to share with y'all today related to second chance hiring involves Goodwill of Southeast Georgia. Hopefully y'all are familiar with the Goodwill Network, and they're doing some great work in the Savannah region. They have what they call G-Force, which is a Tier 3 supplier to Gulfstream, manufacturing operation and pooler. And 60% of their workforce is either former military or second chance hires. And what a great opportunity to partner up the second chance talent pipeline with the former military who bring such great qualities to the table. They're cross-trained, they're computer literate, they have a great work ethic, and they can be such great influences on that second chance talent pipeline. So I think that's certainly an area where we need to put some more time and attention in terms of our group. And then another untapped talent pipeline I wanted to emphasize, and Chris mentioned it earlier today, this is our military. And we are blessed in our region to have both Fort Stewart and Hunter Army Airfield. So we're producing over 3,500 of what we call these heroes for hire annually. And these folks, in large part, we would hope would want to stay in our area. But what we're finding is only about 40% of them are staying. And what's even more interesting is when we surveyed industry, we asked them, what percentage of your workforce is former military? And they said only about 10%. So I see that as a real opportunity for us to grow that percentage. And it's not just about those service members separating. It's also about the spouses and the dependents. Specifically the spouses, we feel like they are either unemployed or underemployed in large part. So we need to do a better job of reaching them. And those are the folks that are just currently in our region. When we think about other service member opportunities, we have people that are from Georgia or either were previously stationed at Fort Stewart and Hunter, and they may want to come back. And we just need to do a better job of making them aware of all these job opportunities that we have coming online. So I think between Second Chance and military, those are two really good pipelines of talent that we need to better tap.
No, that's great. We got to use all sources. And you can hear more about second chances this year as I chair the chamber. That's a passion of mine as well. I think second chancers, having people get income, solves a lot of issues, or at least goes towards mitigating some issues. I think about homelessness, food insecurity, crime. So I think we should all be behind that. So you'll hear more about that going forward. So Anna, we saw earlier that the K-12 educators raised their hands. We have several of those here. We also have some higher education professionals here. I'm curious to hear from you, how do you think these education partners fit into your work in developing a regional educational strategy, workforce development strategy, and then what can the private sector do to help facilitate that?
So as part of our strategic workforce plan, one of the recommendations was that we need to stand up 6 working groups. And one of those working groups is education. That's probably where I think we're going to spend most of our time and attention, and K-12 and higher ed. And we're already engaging our K-12 partners. In fact, we are working with UGA's Carl Vinston Institute of Government and the Georgia Department of Education on an alignment summit. I've heard the word alignment a few times today. And so we've got our 4 counties, Bryan, Bullock, Chatham, and Effingham, and the superintendents in those schools have all committed to being part of this alignment summit. Our 4 economic development authorities will join, as well as about a dozen of our industry partners within the region. And so we're hoping that we can pull this off before the end of the school year. So stay tuned for more to come on that. We're just in the early stages. The hardest thing right now is just picking a date that works for everybody. So I'm really encouraged because I feel like that this is going to be a great first step in our regional organization, helping facilitate what I believe can be pretty impactful from our region when it comes to K-12. And then on the higher ed side, I wanted to focus on a program it's relatively new, and it's through our technical college system of Georgia. We've got 4 of our technical colleges in our region that include Savannah Tech, Ogeechee Tech, Southeastern Tech, and Coastal Pines, and they are participating in what's called the EVP-1. This is a partnership with Hyundai. and it's an electric vehicle program. It's 7.5 weeks, and those folks that successfully complete it, they're guaranteed an interview with Hyundai. And so Savannah Tech, they had their first 2 cohorts that graduated, and 24 people totaled there, and 20 of those folks were hired at Hyundai. So that's awesome. They've got over 50 students currently enrolled, I believe, at Savannah Tech's program. And Ogeechee Tech is starting their program this week, and I think Southeastern Tech and Coastal Pines will follow soon. And so our organization, we're trying, again, to be a facilitator to help make sure that other companies, other industries in our region also have the opportunity to partner with our technical colleges on these customized types of programs that can help feed our talent pipeline.
That's tremendous, tremendous. Thank you very much. So this regional workforce development program that you're leading, I think is the first of its kind, at least the first of its scale in Georgia. So as you're going about this process, can you tell us about some of the most valuable parts of the process and how this positioned the region to look at workforce development in a different way?
So I would say the most important thing for us has been the study. And where this is different than maybe most studies is I've seen oftentimes people pay several $100,000 for a study, and it sits on a shelf and it collects dust, or it's a computer file and it never is accessed. Well, that's not what happened here. So we were motivated to action. We were driven by data. Like I said, it was that data that I showed you earlier that convinced our group that we needed to stand up this regional workforce organization. And in addition to having the data, we had a plan that allowed us to be ready to go. It allowed us to be thoughtful. It also allowed us to act quickly. And so I feel like that's really how we are differentiating ourselves. And I did want to focus on these working groups that we are standing up. I've already talked about education, but we also have military for obvious reasons. As I mentioned earlier, this is very much an underutilized resource, and so we want to spend additional time and attention here. The underrepresented pipeline. This is our second chance hires, our senior citizens, our folks with different abilities. So we have various different pipelines included in the underrepresented, and we've been out meeting with nonprofits and learning about the various entities that are already out there. And I think it's important to mention we're not trying to compete with or replace any of our existing workforce resources. We want to be an enhancer. We want to maximize the resources that are being utilized. And so I just wanted to make sure that I made that clear. Another one of our working groups is housing. And so the first step in housing to me is we have to understand the issue there. We need to know what the challenge is. And so I think very soon we're going to hear an announcement that there will be a regional housing needs assessment that will be conducted for the Savannah area, which I think is a great first step. And our group absolutely wants to be a part of that. Transportation, this is one thing that the consultant identified as a barrier for us right now. We have a lack of regional transportation, and so that's something that we're going to look to try to address. Marketing, this is talent attraction marketing, and while our homegrown talent will be priority number one, we know we still need people to move here from outside of Georgia. And so our consultant identified 5 states that we should target. I don't think we're going to limit ourselves to those 5 states, but it gives us a good starting point. And with me today is Angela Hendricks with CETA. Angela, wave your hand. Angela is our marketing guru, and so she's working with a firm to help us develop a talent attraction brand so we can encourage people to move to the Savannah region. We feel like this time of year in places like New York and Pennsylvania and Illinois, it'll be easier to convince them because they want to escape the weather of where they are. In fact, Angela and I were at a Savannah Bananas game on Friday night, and she talked with a new MetaPro. That's what Hyundai calls their employees, MetaPros. And he had recently moved here from Illinois because of the weather. He saw the job on LinkedIn and he moved on down south. And so we hope more people decide to do that. So that's a little bit about our marketing working group. And as I mentioned earlier, I talked about education. In addition to the working groups, we also hope to stand up employer forums. And we hope to drive topics like childcare, because that is constantly being discussed within our region. So we need our employers to help us figure out solutions related to childcare. Other topics we want to drive through our employer forums are transportation. We want to talk about best practices. And we think we'll have a couple of different employer forums based on geography and also based on the size of the company. And one thing I did want to mention is while the JDA, that 4-county group, has been so critical to the recruitment of Hyundai, as well as the construction project, this workforce initiative is is going to be much larger than the 4-county area. We believe that we could eventually be as large as 20 counties and maybe even span across the river into South Carolina. So we'll see what happens. But really, this workforce study has been the difference maker for us, and I'm just so proud that we took it to the next level and didn't just let that study sit on a shelf.
Yeah. That's great. That's aspirational, so congratulations on that. Hey, we're about to wrap up, but let me see if you have anything else you want to add for the benefit of the group before we close.
So I'm a big advocate in regionalism, and almost 10 years ago, I was involved in standing up the Savannah Harbor Interstate 16 Corridor Joint Development Authority. So y'all know why I just call it the JDA for short. And so for over 10 years now, I have been very passionate about regionalism, and I feel like that we get so much further together. And I fully believe that Hyundai would not have located in Bryan County without that JDA. Bryan County could not have done that project by themselves. And so my takeaway to y'all today is I know sometimes it can be difficult to work outside of county lines with elected officials and appointed officials, and it certainly can be challenging, but I would just encourage you to try it if you already aren't doing it, because it has paid dividends for our region and the Savannah area, and just want to encourage y'all to consider it as well.
Love it. I agree with that. This has been educational and really inspirational. What you're doing, the group you're leading, is really a role model that I hope many other communities and regions can follow. So I'm sure she'll answer any questions outside of this if you have them. Workforce development is a challenge, but it's integral or key to our state's future success. You know, just having talent and filling the jobs will be the key differentiator that powers our future economy. So, and here in Georgia, so it's so important, and I'm glad we have folks like Anna leading these great organizations. So congratulations on what you're doing, and keep doing it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pedro.
Thank you.